Hi, I'm Lauren and welcome back to my craft room. Today I have a Whimsy Stamps video sharing some fun new products as well as kind of a cool technique. So my technique for today's card is a see-through card, which means I have acetate on the front of my card. You can kind of see the glare here. And inside is our sentiment. So we have our pretty flowers on the outside, some acetate to have a window so you can see my sentiment on the inside. I really hope you enjoy this tutorial. I am using the new Gerber Daisy background rubber stamp and its corresponding outline die. These come in a set together, as well as this awesome word die. So we're going to be using these new products. It's actually a pretty simple card that really looks more exciting and fun and complicated than it really is. So I have a piece of cardstock that I've trimmed to be a top folding A2 card, and this is a heavy cardstock, 110 pound. And I also have a piece of clear acetate cut to an A2 size, a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Now I'm taking a second piece of that heavy cardstock here, and I'm going to be putting it into my MISTI to stamp my Daisy stamp set. Now you don't need to use your MISTI, but this just helps make sure that if I need to stamp twice, I know it's going to be in the same spot as before. I'm using some repositional tape just to help keep my cardstock in place while I figure out the placement of this stamp. I am going to be stamping what's going to be on the bottom of my card, so I'm just working out so I don't have to trim two sides of my card. I want my stamp to be on the edge of this piece, so that way I only need to use the die cut to trim out this part of my stamp. Now that my stamp is in place, I'm going to bring out my VersaFine Clair in Pinecone. I thought it wouldn't be as harsh of a line than using a black ink, so I wanted to use brown. And I'm also using VersaFine because it is good with watercolor. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp that, and it looks great on its first stamp. I can't believe the detail and just how pretty this stamp set is. I'm going to go ahead and set that aside to dry while we work on the other side of the card. So now I'm going to take my card base and I'm going to pretty much do the exact same thing. So I am going to place it inside of my MISTI, and this time I'm not going to use any repositional tape. I'm just going to use my magnet. I'm making sure that the fold in my card base is at the top because now I'm stamping the top set of daisies for this card. So I want to make sure it's in the right place. I'm going to be eyeing my MISTI and making sure that the stamp won't stop short and I have this weird white line at the top of my card. I want to make sure that my stamp stamps off of all three edges of this card base. And once I'm happy with the placement, I'm going to use that same VersaFine ink in Pinecone, ink up my stamp, and stamp it onto my card base. I like to make sure I have a nice good stamp, so I'm just using my sleeve here to make sure I have even pressure. And I pull it up and it looks great again, and I'm super happy. So I'm going to set that aside to dry and clean off my stamp. I'm going to bring back out my first sheet now that my ink is dry, and I'm going to be using some Zig watercolor brush markers. Now I am not a pro at these, and I'm really just kind of going for a painted in look, nothing super fancy or detailed. So I'm going over all of the daisies with a yellow Zig marker, and then the center of them with kind of a lighter brown, just how I imagine I can see daisies in the yard. And once I'm happy with that, I'll move on to another color. I'm going to get coloring in the little berries and roses and little flower buds in kind of a rosy red color. I also use green to color in all of the leaves and stems throughout the image, and then I'll also bring in a light blue to color in those flowers in the middle. I'm not really sure what kind of flowers they are, but they're really pretty, and I wanted a pop of something different, kind of have those primary colors of red, yellow, and blue. And when I'm happy with the results, I'm going to go ahead and set that aside, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side, which is actually on my card base. So now that my two stamped images are colored in, I'm going to get out my corresponding die and line it up to the edge of the stamp on my card base. Now I want to make sure I have my card base open when I run it through my die cut machine because I only want to die cut the front part of my card base. As you can see here, I have my flowers trimmed, and I went ahead and cut that extra piece as well. So now I have my acetate, my two pieces with my flowers, and I'm going to bring out some super sturdy adhesive tape. I'm going to place the acetate inside my card seam and fold it over so that way the acetate adheres to the super sticky glue of the front of my card. I'm going to do this pretty much the same thing with my other side. I've got a bunch of adhesive tape on the bottom part of my card. I'm going to peel off that release paper and this time place it on the bottom of the acetate. Now you can see the glue on the other side of the card if you open it up and look inside. If that bothers you, go ahead and cut some extra pieces of cardstock with the same border outline die for this stamp and glue it on the inside. So now I have my awesome sentiment. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go with blue to match those flowers or brown to match the ink color, and I decided on brown. So I stuck a piece of adhesive sheets to the back of some brown cardstock and then ran it through my die cut machine. And now I'm peeling off the other side of that adhesive sheet very carefully so I don't accidentally rip my sentiment. And once I get all of that peeled off, I'll have a nice adhesive backing to my sentiment, and that will help me place it inside of my card. So now I wanted to peek through that open part of my card so it shines through the acetate. I'm going to work on centering this as best as possible and then squeezing it closed. That was the best way I could think of to make sure I could see my awesome sentiment through that window. I just use a microfiber cloth to help me add pressure and make sure my sentiment sticks on the inside. And now I'm looking at it and I think it looks perfect as is, but of course I need a little bit of shimmer. So I have these tiny little diamond dots in my stash. They are a white color with kind of a iridescent sheen to them and they're super tiny. So I'm just going to use my jewel picker and some wet glue and just glue a few of these on the top and on the bottom of my card just to add some really subtle shine. In fact, it's actually kind of hard to see, but I like that it added a small soft touch. And here is my final card. It's super simple and I hope you try this technique out for yourself. You can find links to all the products I use down below in the description. If you enjoyed this card tutorial, I hope I've inspired you to click that like button, and if you're new, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.